It was a great lesson for me. Uh, I really did not feel very secure singing.
For years, fans have been fascinated by the Mamas and the Papas, the legendary band whose songs still echo through time. But behind those beautiful harmonies were stories nobody really knew. Michelle Phillips, the band's unforgettable voice, kept much of it private. Until now. At 81, she's finally opening up, sharing the real story behind the music, the drama, and everything that made the band so unforgettable. It's a story worth hearing. The truth revealed. If you've ever been a fan of the Mamas and the Papas, you probably think you know their story. The classic hits, the harmonious vocals, the whole sun-soaked California vibe, those are the images and sounds that come to mind. But the truth, as Michelle Phillips now reveals at 81, is far more complex, messy, and human than the polished stories that have floated around for decades. Michelle Phillips wasn't just the pretty face and voice of the band. She was the heartbeat of the group. And for years, she kept much of the real story close to the vest. Now, with the wisdom and perspective that comes from a life fully lived, she's sharing what really went on behind the scenes. Stories of creative passion, jealousy, heartbreak, and resilience that shaped the band's incredible rise and tumultuous journey. To appreciate Michelle's revelations, it helps to understand just how the Mamas and the Papas came to be. In 1965, John Phillips, already a seasoned songwriter, gathered a group of talented vocalists: himself, Michelle Phillips, Denny Doherty, and Cass Elliot. Together, they crafted a sound that mixed folk roots with pop sensibilities, creating a brand new kind of music that captured the cultural shift happening in America. From the start, Michelle brought something unique to the group, not just her striking looks, but a voice that could be both sweet and haunting, playful and vulnerable. The blend of her tone with the others created that signature harmony that made songs like California Dreamin' and Monday, Monday timeless. For years, the Mamas and the Papas have been mythologized as this effortlessly cool, harmonious band that embodied the carefree spirit of the 60s. But Michelle's revelations pull back that glossy veneer. The truth? The band was far from perfect. Behind the scenes, the group dealt with intense creative tensions and personal conflicts. Michelle talks about how the band wasn't this seamless, loving family, but more like a pressure cooker of emotions. We were young, passionate, and sometimes reckless, she recalls. The tensions sometimes erupted over control, especially between Michelle and John Phillips, who was both band leader and her husband at the time. One of the most fascinating parts of Michelle's recent revelations is how she describes the dynamics of control within the band. John Phillips was often seen as the creative mastermind, the main songwriter, and the glue holding everything together. But Michelle challenges this one-sided narrative. She admits that John was brilliant, but also controlling, and that she and the others had significant creative input that often went uncredited. Michelle hints that many of her own lyrical ideas and vocal arrangements shaped the band's sound in ways fans have never fully appreciated. And then there was the personal drama. Michelle and John's marriage was complicated, to say the least. Their relationship was marked by love, betrayal, and heartbreak. Elements that spilled into the band's music and public image. Michelle openly discusses the difficulties of balancing a romantic relationship with a professional one, especially under the relentless scrutiny of fame. The 60s were a wild time, and the Mamas and the Papas were no strangers to the excesses that came with it. Michelle doesn't shy away from discussing the substance use that permeated their lives. It was part of the scene, she admits. The group's creativity was often fueled by substances, but it also caused rifts and chaos. Infidelity was another thorny issue. The intertwined relationships between band members made things even more complicated. Michelle's honesty about these aspects reveals the emotional roller coaster they were all on, not just as performers, but as people trying to survive the pressures of success. For decades, the narrative around Michelle Phillips often leaned toward her being the band's eye candy, or the girl with the pretty voice. But now, she sets the record straight. Michelle emphasizes that she was much more than a pretty face. She was a creative force who contributed significantly to the band's identity. She talks about how she pushed back against John's control and fought to have her voice and ideas heard. "I was not just along for the ride," she says. "I was part of the engine that made this band move forward." Her revelations invite us to rethink the contributions women made in music history, often overshadowed or erased, and to recognize Michelle as a pioneering artist who helped shape the sound and success of the Mamas and the Papas. There have been countless stories, rumors, and even biographies about the Mamas and the Papas over the years. But Michelle's recent candidness sheds light on some of the biggest misconceptions. For one, the idea that the band was a perfect, loving family is far from the truth. Michelle reveals the frequent arguments and deep tensions, making it clear the band's story was anything but smooth. Another myth is that John Phillips wrote everything and was the undisputed leader. While John was undoubtedly influential, Michelle insists that the band was a collaborative effort, with her and others contributing creatively. And lastly, the assumption that Michelle was just a passive figure in the band's rise is completely wrong. Far from it, her voice, style, and ideas were central to their success. At 81, Michelle Phillips's decision to finally reveal these truths carries weight. It's not just about setting the record straight or stirring up old stories. It's about reclaiming her legacy and inspiring a deeper understanding of the complexities behind fame, creativity, and relationships. She explains that with age comes clarity and courage to speak openly. "I want people to know the real story, the messy, beautiful, painful, and joyful parts," she says. Her revelations are a reminder that behind every legend are real people with real struggles. But was it just about the music, or was there something deeper, something bigger at play in the rise of the Mamas and the Papas? More than just a soundtrack to the 60s. For many, when you think of the band, it's the instantly recognizable melodies of California Dreamin' or Monday, Monday, songs so catchy and beautiful that they seem to embody an era. But Michelle Phillips wants us to look beyond the songs, beyond the iconic harmonies, and understand the lasting legacy the band truly left behind. Their story, she says, is about much more than just hits on the radio. It's about capturing a spirit and a time and influencing generations of musicians and fans alike. The Mamas and the Papas arrived during a moment of seismic cultural shifts. The mid-60s were a time when music wasn't just entertainment. It was a voice for change, for rebellion, and for hope. The folk rock sound they helped pioneer fused storytelling with emotion, perfectly reflecting the optimism and anxieties of a generation. Michelle's voice was a key part of that alchemy. It wasn't just her singing, it was the way her tone could convey vulnerability and strength simultaneously. That quality made the band's music feel personal to so many listeners. One of the band's greatest legacies, Michelle points out, was how they helped shape the very idea of what a band could be. Their blend of male and female vocals, their seamless harmonies, and their willingness to explore both the light and dark sides of life set new standards for pop and rock music. In many ways, they created a blueprint for future groups who wanted to mix artistry with commercial success. Without them, the musical landscape we know today might look very different. But beyond the sound, the band's story, their struggles, conflicts, and passions has become a cultural touchstone. Michelle's recent openness adds layers to that story. It reminds us that their music was born out of very real human experiences, including heartbreak, ambition, and complicated relationships. The band's rise and fall mirror the turbulent 60s itself. Beautiful, messy, revolutionary, and sometimes tragic. Michelle also talks about the gender dynamics within the band's legacy. Back then, women in rock and folk were often seen through a narrow lens and their creative contributions minimized. She's proud that the Mamas and the Papas helped crack that mold. Her role showed that women could be not just voices, but leaders, innovators, and storytellers. The band's success helped open doors for countless female artists who followed, inspiring them to claim their space in the industry. Today, Michelle sees the band's legacy alive in many forms, from the countless covers of their songs to the way modern artists draw on their style and spirit. But she also hopes people understand that their legacy isn't just about nostalgia. It's about the power of music to connect, to challenge, and to express the messy realities of being human. When you listen to the Mamas and the Papas now, with Michelle's revelations in mind, you hear not just beautiful harmonies, you hear stories of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of creative truth, more than the mama. When people think of Michelle Phillips, many still picture the young, radiant woman from the Mamas and the Papas, the voice on the radio, the face on the album covers. But Michelle's story didn't end when the band's music faded from the charts. In fact, it was just the beginning of a remarkable journey of reinvention, resilience, and self-discovery that spans decades. Michelle's life after the band shows a fearless willingness to take risks and explore new creative outlets. After the Mamas and the Papas disbanded in the early 70s amid personal turmoil and industry pressures, Michelle didn't simply fade away. Instead, she threw herself into acting. Starting with small roles, she gradually built a solid career in film and television, proving she was much more than a singer. From cult classics to mainstream hits, Michelle's acting showcased a different side of her artistic talent, a blend of charm, grit, and vulnerability that resonated with audiences. But her transition wasn't always smooth. Like many artists trying to redefine themselves after massive success in one field, Michelle faced skepticism and challenges. Hollywood wasn't always welcoming to someone trying to shed an established image. Still, she persevered, carving out a niche that allowed her to be taken seriously on her own terms. Her persistence is a testament to her strength, a quality that shines through in everything she's done. Michelle's reinvention also extended into her personal life. The public had witnessed her ups and downs, her marriage and divorce with John Phillips, the struggles with the band, and the very public moments of heartbreak and betrayal. Yet she emerged with a deeper understanding of herself. Over the years, Michelle has spoken openly about her journey towards self-acceptance and healing, emphasizing the importance of embracing both the light and the shadows in one's life. What's inspiring about Michelle's story is her refusal to be defined by her past. While many might have been content resting on the laurels of their 60s fame, she kept evolving. She took on roles that challenged her, spoke honestly about her experiences, and continued to engage with her fans on her own terms. This has created a lasting connection, one built not just on nostalgia, but on respect for her resilience and authenticity. Michelle also found ways to honor her past while moving forward. She's participated in reunions, interviews, and retrospectives that celebrate the mamas and the papas' music, but she always makes sure the conversation includes the whole story, not just the highlights. This balance between honoring history and speaking truthfully about its complexities is part of what makes her voice so compelling today. Beyond the spotlight, Michelle has also been involved in various creative and philanthropic endeavors, using her platform to support causes close to her heart. Whether it's advocating for mental health awareness or championing the arts, she's used her experience to inspire and uplift others. Her life is a reminder that reinvention isn't just about changing careers, it's about growing as a person and using your voice in new and meaningful ways. At 81, Michelle Phillips stands as a powerful example of how a life in the public eye can be navigated with grace and courage. She embodies the idea that we're never fixed or finished, that we can keep creating, changing, and telling our truths, no matter our age or past. Her journey invites us to reconsider what it means to be a woman in music and entertainment, challenging the narrow roles often assigned and insisting on the complexity and fullness of her story. In many ways, Michelle's personal journey reflects the broader cultural changes she helped soundtrack in the 60s, moving from innocence to experience, from idealism to realism, and from conformity to self-expression. Her story isn't just about the past, it's a living narrative about growth, resilience, and the ongoing pursuit of creative and personal freedom. So, what was it really like behind the scenes, beyond the harmonies, behind the fame, and beneath the perfect California cool? Memorable moments and untold stories. The first thing that hits you when you listen to the mamas and the papas is their impeccable harmonies and catchy melodies. But behind those legendary recordings were countless moments filled with drama, laughter, heartbreak, and sheer creative magic. Michelle Phillips, now in her 80s, has started to open up about those behind-the-scenes stories, giving fans a new window into the lives of the band members beyond the stage. One story Michelle often recalls is the making of California Dreamin', arguably their most famous song. The track was recorded during a chilly winter session in New York, a far cry from the sunny vibes the song evokes. Michelle remembers how the group's chemistry was electric yet tense, fueled by both excitement and pressure. "We were freezing, but there was this spark," she said. "That song almost didn't happen the way people think. It was a battle to get it just right." Hearing this makes you realize the effortless sound captured so many listeners wasn't just luck. It was the result of hard work, stubbornness, and passion. Another anecdote that Michelle shares sheds light on the complicated personal relationships within the band. The love triangle between John Phillips, Michelle herself, and bandmate Denny Doherty was an open secret that caused waves both on and off stage. Michelle talks candidly about the emotional roller coaster of being in the middle of that dynamic, how it fueled some of the band's rawest performances but also contributed to the eventual unraveling of their close-knit unit. "It was messy," she admits with a laugh, "but it was real. We were young people dealing with love and jealousy, while trying to make music that mattered." Beyond the personal dramas, Michelle also highlights moments of genuine friendship and support. Despite the tensions, the band members cared deeply for each other. She remembers late-night conversations, impromptu jam sessions, and times when music brought them together in ways nothing else could. "There were moments of pure magic," she recalls. "When we sang together, it was like the whole world disappeared. That's what made it worth everything." Michelle also opens up about the pressures of fame. The band skyrocketed to stardom quickly, and with that came expectations, touring demands, and media scrutiny. She describes the challenges of living under the spotlight while trying to maintain a sense of self. "You're caught between who you are and who the world wants you to be," she explains. This tension played a big role in the group's dynamics and eventual split, but it also shaped the way Michelle views fame and success today. One particularly revealing moment Michelle talks about is their infamous appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. The band's live performance was a big deal at the time, but backstage, tensions were high. Michelle describes a chaotic scene filled with nerves, last-minute changes, and the constant pressure to be perfect. "We looked like we had it all together on stage, but behind the scenes, it was anything but," she laughs. These stories remind us that what we see in the spotlight is often just the tip of the iceberg. Michelle's reflections also highlight the creative process behind the band's work. She talks about how songs evolved in the studio, the collaborative spirit, and sometimes heated debates over arrangements and lyrics. She reveals that while John Phillips was the primary songwriter, the others, including herself, contributed ideas that shaped the final product. "It was messy and beautiful," she says. "We pushed each other to be better, to reach higher." Through these stories, Michelle humanizes the mamas and the papas, not just as music legends, but as real people with dreams, flaws, and emotions. Her candidness invites fans to see beyond the polished albums and hit singles, to the vibrant, complicated lives that fueled their art. These memories also offer lessons about creativity, relationships, and perseverance that resonate far beyond the music industry. They remind us that even in the midst of chaos and conflict, great art can emerge. Michelle's willingness to share these moments adds depth to our understanding of the band's legacy and keeps their story alive for new generations. Soundtracking a revolution and staying relevant. Today, the 60s were more than just a decade of great music. They were a time of massive social change. Civil rights, the women's movement, the counterculture revolution, anti-war protests. The world was shifting rapidly, and music was both a mirror and a catalyst for those changes. The mamas and the papas weren't just background music to this era. They were part of the soundtrack that helped define it. Michelle Phillips's reflections help us see how deeply intertwined their music was with the cultural currents of their time, and why that connection still matters today. The band's blend of folk harmonies with pop accessibility gave voice to a generation that was searching for something new. Their songs touched on themes of freedom, longing, and change, universal feelings that resonated with young people pushing against old norms. Michelle talks about how, even though the band didn't set out to be political activists, their music became a rallying cry for many. "We captured the spirit of the times," she says. "It was bigger than just music. It was about expressing hope, doubt, and the desire for a better world." The mamas and the papas also broke new ground in how men and women shared the spotlight. The interplay between male and female voices wasn't just a musical choice, it reflected the shifting gender dynamics of the era. Michelle's role as a strong female voice in a male-dominated industry helped challenge stereotypes and opened doors for future female artists. Her candidness about her experiences highlights how hard it was to be taken seriously as a woman then, and how much she fought to be heard. Being a woman in that scene wasn't easy, she admits, but it made the victories that much sweeter. Another cultural impact was their connection to the emerging California sound, a blend of laid-back West Coast vibes with a hint of rebelliousness. Their music embodied the promise and contradictions of the era. Freedom mixed with uncertainty, idealism tempered by reality. Songs like California Dreamin' weren't just catchy tunes. They symbolized a longing for change and escape, that defined a generation. Fast forward to today, and the band's music continues to find new audiences. Michelle often reflects on how younger generations discover the mamas and the papas through streaming, movies, and covers by contemporary artists. Their songs still feel fresh and relevant, speaking to timeless emotions and social questions. It's amazing to see how the music lives on, Michelle says. It's proof that real emotion and honest storytelling never go out of style. Michelle also points out that the themes in their music, love, loss, hope, and struggle, are universal. In a world that still grapples with social and political upheaval, the band's songs remind us of our shared humanity. She believes their legacy endures because they weren't afraid to be vulnerable and authentic. People connect with what's real, she says. That's what makes a song last. Their music's endurance also speaks to the power of collaboration and diversity. The mamas and the papas were four distinct voices coming together to create something richer than the sum of its parts. Michelle emphasizes that this blending of perspectives was key to their success and relevance. It's a reminder that creative breakthroughs often come from embracing differences and working through conflict. Michelle's reflections invite us to look at the mamas and the papas not just as relics of a bygone era, but as living influences on today's music and culture. Their story encourages us to think about how art can reflect and shape society, and how honesty and courage in creativity can inspire change. Lessons from a life well lived. If there's one thing Michelle Phillips's journey teaches us, it's that life and art are never simple. Over the decades, she's learned some hard truths, had moments of joy and heartbreak, and developed a philosophy about creativity and authenticity that feels especially relevant today. Now in her 80s, Michelle reflects on what it means to stay true to yourself amid the noise, the fame, and the chaos. One of the biggest lessons Michelle shares is about creativity. She emphasizes that being an artist isn't just about talent. It's about persistence and courage. You have to keep showing up, she says. Even when it's scary, even when people doubt you, you have to keep making your voice heard. That grit helped her through the highs and lows of her career, from chart-topping success with the mamas and the papas to navigating the challenges of Hollywood and beyond. Michelle also talks openly about the role of vulnerability in creativity. The songs that resonate most, she says, come from a place of honesty, telling stories that aren't always pretty, but are real. This honesty, she believes, connects us as humans. When you're honest about your pain, your joy, your fears, that's when the magic happens, she explains. For Michelle, creativity is a way to make sense of life's complexities and share that understanding with others. Relationships, of course, have been a central theme in her life. Michelle's story is filled with love and loss, trust and betrayal. But through it all, she's learned the importance of forgiveness, not just of others, but of herself. We're all flawed, she says. What matters is how you grow from your mistakes and keep loving, even when it's hard. This perspective comes through in the way she talks about her time with the mamas and the papas, not with bitterness, but with a sense of gratitude for the experiences that shaped her. Michelle also stresses the importance of authenticity, not just in art, but in life. She encourages people to embrace who they really are, rather than trying to fit into someone else's idea of success or happiness. It's tempting to wear masks, especially in show business, she says. But the real power comes from being yourself, no matter what. This message feels especially powerful today, in a world obsessed with image and perfection. Another lesson Michelle highlights is resilience, the ability to keep going despite setbacks. Her life hasn't been without challenges, from from personal struggles to the pressures of fame, but she credits her strength to staying grounded, surrounding herself with supportive people, and always holding on to her passion. "There were times I thought I'd never make it through," she admits, "but something inside kept me moving forward." As Michelle looks back, she hopes her story can inspire others to live boldly and honestly. She wants people to know that it's okay to be messy, to make mistakes, and to keep reinventing yourself. "Life isn't a straight line," she laughs. "It's a wild ride. But if you stay true to your voice, that's what really matters." Her reflections remind us that behind the music and fame is a deeply human story, one of growth, courage, and the ongoing search for meaning. But how far does that influence really reach? And who's still feeling the ripple effects of their sound and spirit today? Michelle and the Mamas and the Papas' impact on today's music. It's one thing to be a star in your own time. It's quite another to leave a legacy that echoes through the decades and shapes the voices of artists who come long after. Michelle Phillips and the Mamas and the Papas have done just that. Their sound, style, and spirit continue to inspire musicians across genres, from folk and pop to indie and beyond. Michelle often speaks about how honored she feels when younger artists mention the band as an influence. She recalls moments of surprise and delight when she hears a new band covering California Dreamin', or when a contemporary singer channels the emotional depth of their harmonies. "It's amazing to see how our music keeps evolving," she says. "Each generation brings something new to it, and that keeps it alive." One reason their music endures is its emotional honesty. The songs weren't just pretty tunes. They told stories of real feelings, hope, heartache, longing, and joy. That authenticity resonates with artists who want to connect deeply with their audiences. Michelle's own journey as a woman in a male-dominated industry also serves as a powerful example for female musicians pushing boundaries today. Her courage and voice helped pave the way for more diverse voices in music. Michelle also points out how the band's willingness to experiment with sound and style remains relevant. They weren't afraid to blend folk, pop, and rock in ways that were fresh for their time. This spirit of innovation encourages new artists to break out of genre boxes and create music that feels true to them. "Music should be an adventure," Michelle says. "You have to take risks to find something real." Beyond music, the Mamas and the Papas' cultural impact lives on in fashion, film, and even activism. Their style, bohemian, carefree, yet sophisticated, still influences trends. Their story of a band navigating personal and political upheaval resonates in an era when artists are often vocal about social issues. Michelle's openness about her experiences encourages today's creatives to be honest and bold. Michelle takes pride in how the band's legacy has grown beyond their initial success. She sees it as a testament to the timeless power of connection through art. "Our music was about people, about sharing something true," she reflects. "If that spirit lives on, then we've done something right." As she looks ahead, Michelle remains passionate about supporting new talent and sharing the lessons she's learned. Whether through mentoring, interviews, or simply sharing her story, she wants to keep inspiring others to find their voice and follow their passion. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel for more.